So I've been working with directly with blockchain technologies for around 18 months now, and had an interest in blockchain technologies for about the 12 months before that. So I'm a relative newcomer, I think, but I still find it really confusing and difficult. There's a whole host of blockchain softwares out there to try and understand and stay on top of. And it seems that vendors are bringing new products to the market all the time, or jumping on board to offer their own versions of blockchains, or in the cloud as a blockchain as a service. So I know that every day in my mailbox, it's full of facts, opinions, falsehoods, and statistics. And sometimes it's really difficult to understand which is which. But is there one chain to rule them all? So a lot of people will understand Bitcoin and Ethereum. Maybe they've registered with a cryptocurrency exchange, dipped their toes into the shark-infested waters of the crypto markets. Some other people will understand a little bit more about some of the other blockchain technologies that are out there, such as Hyperledger Fabric or Corda, or probably most likely Libra. Some of the people in the room here will probably have more of an in-depth understanding of blockchain, either through desk-based research, through conference attendance. Maybe you've been involved in a proof of concept, or maybe you've taken blockchain solution all the way through to full production rollout. I'd kind of be interested to know how many people fall into each camp, but maybe that's something we can discuss later. So the size of the market, I mean, Gartner estimates that the business value delivered by blockchain use cases will be 3.1 trillion by the year 2030. So there's quite a significant prize on offer. So will there be one chain to rule them all? When we talk about blockchains in the lab back in Belfast, we talk about 4 different dimensions. So we have open and closed, and simple and flexible. So with the Bitcoin and Ethereum networks that I've mentioned already, well, they're on the open side of the dimensions. They are public, they're permissionless. So what does that mean? It means that anybody can view all of the transactions on the network, anybody can submit a transaction to the network, and anybody can participate in the consensus that ensures the integrity of the network and its transactions. On the vertical axis, we also have simple and flexible. So Bitcoin was the original. It was the first digitally scarce asset, as we've heard already. But it's focused on transactions. It's simple, but it's also secure. Ethereum came along, and it opened up blockchain to new possibilities through smart contracts and distributed apps. But if you go and you Google Ethereum smart contract hack, you'll understand that flexibility can come at a cost. On the other side of open, we have closed. So these are the enterprise blockchains. These are private, permission-driven. I need to have the right privileges to be able to view the transactions on the network. I need to have the right privileges to submit a transaction to the network. And I might need even more privileges to participate in consensus. Now, you could argue that these are contrary to the decentralization principle. I mean, after all, if I'm running all of the nodes, if I have full control of consensus, well, what's the point of the blockchain? But regardless, you can see that even with this very simple example, different blockchains have different characteristics. So how can we choose? How do we know which blockchain platform to pick? How do we know what smart contract language we should use? How do we know what consensus algorithm we should be using? I think that these are impossible questions with no right or wrong answer right now. And I certainly wouldn't want to bet my mortgage in any single chain at the minute. But perhaps we can answer some different questions if we start to think about what makes up an end-to-end blockchain solution. So you can see that in the context of a distributed app, The blockchain network is a small part. There's an awful lot more that a development team needs to build in order to deliver a blockchain application. Now, in my role as a software development manager, I obviously have a vested interest in the blockchain network. I have a responsibility to both the development team and to the business to ensure that we're not setting unrealistic requirements. We're not setting unrealistic timelines, and we're not trying to achieve unachievable goals. But I'm not working with a blockchain product team, and we are not blockchain vendors. We are broadly technology and vendor agnostic as far as we can be. There's obviously always pros and cons that we need to weigh up when we're selecting any kind of technology. But where we can, we go with what's right for the business. And a lot of the time we say, you don't need one of those. Now, it might surprise you, given I work in a blockchain lab, that I have no strong opinion or preformed options around which blockchain network we should be using. But there are 3 things that I suggest that we really need to think about carefully when we're thinking about any kind of blockchain application. So first of all, and maybe the obvious one, security. But security not just in general terms like identity and access management. With a blockchain application, we have to make sure that we secure those all-important private keys. It's highly unlikely, I think, that our end customers or our business users are going to understand things like elliptic curve cryptography or hierarchical deterministic key generation. So how can we talk to them in terms that they understand, like they know they need to secure usernames and passwords, but do they know and understand the importance of securing seed phrases, particularly when disclosure can be catastrophic? We also need to consider the underlying protocols. So if at a protocol level, I can only support single signature addresses, so I only have one set of keys, does my solution automatically become less secure? The second thing I think we need to think about is scalability. It's already been mentioned a couple of times. So blockchain networks, simply by their nature, are distributed. There are multiple copies of the ledger. Resilience isn't really the problem that we need to look at. We can easily lose a node from the network and carry on. But if you look, for example, at the expected block time of Bitcoin or Ethereum, 10 minutes or 10 to 20 seconds, respectively, well, that only equates to somewhere between 3 and 15 transactions per second. So how could we possibly achieve the transactions per second of the Visa network? Is that even a use case for a blockchain-based solution? Maybe it is when you look at the existence of second-layer solutions like Lightning Network. I'm not so sure. The enterprise blockchains, they boast higher throughput numbers. They're published in their papers. But again, under what kind of conditions? It can be really easy to stand up an initial blockchain solution using the cloud technologies, the blockchain as a service model. But when the business buy into that proof of concept and want to move beyond that simple use case, how can we scale to even modest throughput numbers compared to what they're used to with their relational databases and centralized systems they're accustomed to? So the third area is interoperability. Again, we've heard about this before. You can already see that the bulk of the effort here for a development team like the team I work with isn't on the blockchain network. That's typically taking somebody else's software, deploying it and running it. Now that's not easy, but it doesn't require the heavy lifting and the forethought that goes into the rest of the blockchain application. We have to think of these things and build them and design them to be flexible. The chain that we integrate with today may not be the chain that we integrate with tomorrow. We may have a requirement to add a new coin, to take an example from the cryptocurrency world. It shouldn't be good enough for us to essentially have to start again. And the business user application shouldn't have to understand the complexities of the underlying protocol. So, how do we decide? How can we make sure that we pick the right blockchain platform? Is there one chain to rule them all? For me, I don't think there is. And to be quite frank, I don't think there really has to be. Them all is plural, and I think that that's probably the way it's going to stay. Certainly there will be winners, there will be losers. Some of the blockchains that we're familiar with now will disappear. Others will come to the fore. I do think that, for example, Bitcoin will likely become the payment network, but there will be others. Consortium will become the primary implementation in their particular industry vertical or use case. But to be honest, I think that's probably based more on the business network rather than the blockchain network. So we were asked to make a prediction. Now, I'm no futurist, and I've never had a particularly vivid imagination, but here's what I think. I think, first of all, we will continue to see the emergence and adoption of interoperability standards. I think, secondly, the scalability challenge will be solved either through second layer solutions or through next generation chains, be that third, fourth, fifth generation. And I think that the private and the public chains will become integrated. That line between open and closed will be blurred. And when we get there, we'll probably achieve the decentralized web or Web 3.0. So again, we've already heard this. Now, I have no idea how long it's going to take us to get there, and to be honest, I don't really know what that looks like. But in the meantime, blockchain solutions that have interoperability, scalability, and security at their core, I think they have the best chance of surviving the test of time, and they may just form the next wave of life-changing tech. Thank you.